Good morning. I'm Teresa Nikas, and I'll be your host for today's Quiet Echo. I want to start with a number 40%. Since 2005, 40% of all local newspapers in the United States have closed. More than 130 closed in just the past year. The communities they served did not stop needing local news when the paper shut down. They just stopped having it. I want to tell you about a man named Schuyler Baker Jordan and what he did about it. Baker Jordan spent his career in national opinion journalism. He made a name for himself, and then he looked at what national media had become and made a different decision. He moved to Glasgow, Montana, population 3,200, the most remote town in the continental United States, 60 miles from the Canadian border, to become editor of the Glasgow Courier, the local weekly. He wrote about the decision this month in the Daily Yonder, a publication covering rural America. He said, "As a young journalist, local news was not what he wanted. He wanted the national stage. He got it, and then he watched the national press become something he did not want to be part of anymore. The vitriol, the partisanship, the way opinion journalism had started to feel less like contributing to public discourse and more like eroding it. He left. He moved to Glasgow, and within his first few hours in town, people started telling him stories. Things they wanted covered, things they had been sitting with because there was no one to tell." He wrote, "The thirst for local news is not unique to Glasgow, but it is increasingly difficult to quench. I have been sitting with it all week." Here is what Baker Jordan said about what a local paper actually is. He said local newspapers are not just instruments of reporting on the dry proceedings of City Hall or the local school board. They are civic institutions helping a community function by and for the people who call it home. I want to stay with those words for a moment. A local paper is not the stories it publishes. It is the fact someone is watching, someone is asking questions, someone is at the meeting and writing down what was decided and making sure the community knows about it. When there is no paper, the decisions still get made, the budgets still pass, the zoning variances still get approved, the road maintenance still gets deferred. The difference is nobody writes it down. Nobody tells you. The room makes its decisions in the dark, and the people affected by them find out later, or they do not find out at all. 40% of local newspapers have closed since 2005. Think about what has happened in those communities in the 20 years since. The decisions made without scrutiny. The contracts awarded without anyone asking questions. The school board votes with 3 people in the room. The water rates raised with no one covering the meeting. None of it is covered because there is no one to cover it. A recent Pew study found 56% of Americans trust national news organizations. 70% trust their local newsrooms. The gap is not an accident. Local news covers things people can verify. You can drive past the road. You can attend the meeting. You can check whether what the paper says is true. National news cannot offer you any of that. It asks you to trust at a distance. Local news asks you to engage up close. I have been editing Cedar Valley News since 1957, or rather, the paper has been here since then, and I have been part of it for as long as I can remember. I know what it costs to keep a local paper going. I know what it would mean for Cedar Valley if it stopped. I know which meetings would go uncovered, which decisions would go unreported, which families would find out too late about something that was decided without them. Baker Jordan moved to Glasgow because the paper needed someone, not because it advanced his career, not because Montana was convenient, because a community needed someone to be in the room, and he had the skills, and he decided the work was worth doing. I think about his decision when I sit down to write on Monday mornings. The work is worth doing, not because it is glamorous, not because it is easy, because Cedar Valley is somewhere, and somewhere deserves someone paying attention. Baker Jordan wrote, "Even though Glasgow is the middle of nowhere, nowhere is somewhere. Somewhere matters. Cedar Valley is not the middle of nowhere, but the principle is the same. This town is somewhere. The people here are someone. What gets decided in the rooms of this community lands in Cedar Valley kitchens and Cedar Valley lives. Someone needs to be in the room. Someone needs to write it down. The 40% of papers are gone. The communities they served are quieter for it. Cedar Valley still has a paper. I do not take for granted it will always. What keeps it is not a business model or a grant. It is the belief, held by enough people in this community, local news is worth having." Baker Jordan went to Glasgow to find out if the belief still held there. Within his first few hours, people lined up to tell him stories. The belief held. If Cedar Valley News has covered something something that mattered to you, or if there is a story you think Cedar Valley needs to hear. The Facebook group is where the conversation continues. Come tell us. I will put the link in the show notes. This is Teresa Nikas, your host for today's Quiet Echo. Thanks for listening. This Quiet Echo is part of the fictional Cedar Valley news series written by Evan Swenson, publisher, publication consultants, and Claude Marshall, AI developmental editor. While the people in town of Cedar Valley are fictional, Skylar, Baker Jordan, the Glasgow Courier, and the details described are real, as reported in the Daily Yonder on April 15, 2026.
You've been listening to the Cedar Valley News Podcast, where small-town voices meet the headlines shaping our world. From faith and family to front porches and fields. We'll be back with more stories connecting real lives to real events. Until next time, keep your porch light on, your faith strong, and your heart open. This is Cedar Valley News.